Mold spores like dark, enclosed spaces, and they multiply rapidly. Mold spores give off a musty smell, which is a warning.
I smell a smelly smell.
Kind of like a skunk or natural gas.
A smelly smell that smells smelly.
Things that let off a smell as a warning tell you that there's something in the area that you need to either take care of or stay away from. Before, say, your house blows up because you smelled natural gas and you didn't do anything about it. Or you're bathing in tomato juice because you got sprayed by a skunk. I don't know if tomato juice actually works to get rid of a skunk smell. It's something that I've heard of, but thankfully I've never had to test it. Tell me in the comments if you know what you have to do to get rid of a skunk smell. It's something I'm very, very curious about. Not curious enough to get sprayed by a skunk on purpose, but still very curious. A musty smell does not necessarily mean that you have a mold problem, but it does mean that you need to do something so that you don't end up with a mold problem. One example of a musty smell that doesn't necessarily mean that you have a mold problem is under the bathroom or kitchen sink. When we moved into our house, we had to do a lot of work on the house, and one of the things that we did was replace the vanity in the master bathroom. Actually, we replaced everything in the master bathroom. And so when we finished, it was a sparkling, brand new, with all fresh plumbing bathroom. The plumbing was checked multiple times for leaks, because that's what you're supposed to do, and there were no drips or any problems. Yet a few months later, when I opened the cupboard under the sink, there was a musty smell. I checked again, and there was still no leaks. It was completely dry. So why the musty smell? Today, we are going to talk about moldy and musty smells and how to figure out what causes them and what to do about them, because it's important to do something about them. Hi, I'm Amy, and this is another supercalifragilisticexpialidocious episode of A Lolly Life. You know what else is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? You are. And you are in the right place. I love you, and I want you to hang around. If you smell a musty smell, it means there's too much water in the area for the amount of circulation that the area has.
What exactly does that mean?
Well, it usually means that there's a water leak somewhere. So that's the first thing you should check if you have a musty smell. Don't wait, because mold spores multiply rapidly. And as they multiply, they start to collect into little groups. And pretty soon those little groups get big enough that you can actually see them. You can clean up mold if you catch it right away with a special cleaner or a little bit of bleach and a little bit of elbow grease. That means hard work. If you don't, the mold spores start to dig into whatever area they are around, whether it be the ceiling or the floor or the wall. And when they do that, then you have an actual mold problem, and you can't just clean it up with bleach or a special cleaner. If the mold starts digging into things, then you have to pull out the drywall or the floorboards or the rafters or whatever else it happens to dig into and replace it. So take care of the issue as soon as you can, or it will get out of control. Obviously, if you find a leak, get it fixed. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, meaning that the sooner that you get a leak fixed, the better it is. A leak will get exponentially worse the longer that it is leaking, so fix it right away. But what if you don't find a water leak? Like I said before, a musty smell does not necessarily mean that you have a water leak. Let's go back to my example of a musty smell under the bathroom sink. I don't have a leak under the bathroom sink, but it's also a cabinet that I do not open the door multiple times a day. Usually, sometimes I could go multiple days without opening the door at all. So it's not a cabinet that gets a lot of air circulation or air movement. However, one time that the cabinet is open is after I shower when I'm trying to blow dry my hair. Despite the fact that we have a vent fan, when you shower, there's going to be more humidity in the air in the bathroom, even when you're running the vent fan. So most of the time when I open the bathroom cabinet, it is when there's a lot of humidity in the air. That's why it starts to smell musty, because there's too much water or moisture in the air for the amount of air circulation or air movement. It keeps the musty and moldy smells away by collecting the moisture from the air. It's like a small dehumidifier. You put the little crystals inside the basket and you put this lid on it, and then you put it in a small enclosed area that is extra humid, like under the bathroom sink. Or maybe even you could put several in a sunroom or something like that. But it's like a tiny dehumidifier, and it works really well. Depending on how humid the area is that you put the damp rid, it could last for a few months or maybe even up to a year. If you put damp rid in, say, a sunroom, you would have to use multiple of them, and you might have to replace them sooner. I included a link for this in my description below. This is not a sponsored video or a promo. None of my videos are. This is just something that I happen to use that I find very helpful, and I think you might find it helpful as well. And so I provide a link in the description to help you find it a little bit easier. Also, you can just empty the water that it collects out into the sink and use a refill to fill this back up instead of having to buy a new plastic cup each time. Life skills are the skills and knowledge you need to live your best life. That's what we talk about here on A Lolly Life. It is okay if you need to have a little bit more information about something in order to feel comfortable with it. It is okay if you take a little bit longer to learn something than other people. It's also okay if no one taught you how to sweep the kitchen floor that you don't really know how to do it. You can click on the video in the corner to learn all the tricks that you need to know to sweep the kitchen floor. You know, you're wondering if there are some tricks that make it easier. Well, there are. So go watch that video now. I know you aren't perfect. I know you've made choices that you regret. Me too. I still love you. I still think that you're wonderful. The idea is to acknowledge the mistakes that you've made and try to do better next time. I hope that you look in the mirror today and tell yourself that you are loved and you are wonderful, because you are. And I'll see you on the next episode of A Lolly Life. See ya!